Welcome to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I'm your host, Deb Maisner. I'm a registered nurse, health coach, and alcohol-free badass. I have found that there's more than one way to address drinking. If you've ever asked yourself if drinking is taking more than it's giving, or if you've found that you're drinking more than usual, you may have reached your own alcohol tipping point. The Alcohol Tipping Point is a podcast for you to find tips, tools, and thoughts to change your drinking. Whether you're ready to quit forever or a week, this is the place for you. You are not stuck and you can change. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I want to take a sec to invite you to the next Alcoholiday. It's a monthly dry group where I help people practice not drinking. This is for you if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're broken, you're never going to get it. I want to just support you and arm you with lots of different tools to battle cravings, work on your thinking about drinking, be more kind and compassionate to yourself as you're doing this. You know, drinking is a habit. And it's probably something you've done for years or decades even. So it takes a while to unwind it. And that's why I'm so passionate about focusing on practicing not drinking, working on progress, not perfection. I love the saying, focus on the direction, not perfection. And I think it's important just to have these types of groups, programs that just give you a safe place that has no shame, no judgment. A safe place where you can just learn new tools and just start unwinding the habit so that it gets easier and easier for you to drink less or not at all. I would love to have you join the next Alcoholiday. It starts the first of every month. As a podcast listener, you always get 20% off by using the code LOVE, L-O-V-E. And it is hosted on a private platform. It is a HIPAA-protected platform. It's really important to me as a nurse just to have privacy and a safe place for you. And what you get is daily emails, lessons, accountability. You get lots and lots of tools to battle cravings. You get a really detailed guidebook, journal to help you out during those 30 days, 31 days, whatever the length of the month is. And then you get downloadable audio meditations, just something to go to when you're feeling a craving. We also do weekly group chats, weekly group support calls led by me and another sober coach twice a week. And then there's also a private chat where you can just share with others, support others. And it's just a great place to practice not drinking. The cost is $89. US dollars, that is. So it's less than $3 a day. Plus, use that LOVE code to get your discount. And just a little background on me, I have been a registered nurse for 20 years. I'm a board certified health coach. I'm a smart recovery certified facilitator, an addiction certified mental health professional. I'm a mindfulness instructor. And then you all know I like to call myself an alcohol-free badass. I've been alcohol-free for 4.5 years now. So I would love to see you in the next group. You can sign up at alcoholtippingpoint.com/alcoholiday and join there. I also will link it in my show notes. Wherever you are with your drinking journey, just know that I am rooting for you, that you are not broken, and you can change. Thanks so much. Welcome back to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I am so excited to have my Boston Bestie on the show today. Today is Carol Cunningham. Like I said, she is from Boston. She is an artist and a crafter, a wife of a retired firefighter, a mom of 4 boys, and an alcohol-free badass. I first met Carol when she joined the February Alcoholiday in 2022. I had to look that up, Carol. And she has just been rocking it. She's been alcohol-free since May of 2022, and she's been such an inspiration. And It's been amazing getting to know you, Carol, and seeing your journey, seeing you grow, and just getting to be friends with you. We've gotten that chance to meet in real life 3 times now. We've done 3 retreats together, starting in Seattle and then in Maine and then in Utah just in October, and I was delighted when Carol said, "Okay, I'm ready to share my story for the podcast," which is super, super brave. So thank you, Carol. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. Well, do you wanna start with, like, what your experience with drinking was like, how you unwound it, where to begin?
Sure. Yes. I would say that my relationship with alcohol started feel fairly early. I think I was probably 15 or so, but it wasn't anything too much out of the ordinary. I would just drink with friends at parties. It wasn't out of control. And same as I aged and I was in college, there would be binge drinking. We were definitely fond of drinking. We definitely thought it was fun and just did it with my friends. And it was just sort of, normal, I guess you would say. I didn't think about it any other time, just when I was out socializing or partying with friends. And I got married, had my kids. I got married at 26, and it was never anything we had at home. My husband and I didn't drink at home while raising my kids. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't the mommy wine culture like it is today. I had my first baby in 1993 and then my last in 1999. So I would say that whole mommy wine culture wasn't an issue. I would say it got to be a problem for me probably in my late 40s, about maybe 2012. And my kids were growing, they were teenagers. I'm a worrier, by nature. I have had anxiety and depression pretty much my whole life. Nothing too severe, debilitating. I take medication and I've gotten a handle on it, but when you're an anxious person, I think drinking is definitely appealing to you because, it kind of just calms you down right away. So my kids were teenagers, they'd be out and about, and I'd get a little worried. I was starting to enter menopause. That's another thing that can really mess you up. So I did kind of start leaning into it more, drinking more at home. Before I went out for like a party, I would drink beforehand. And so it just became I was becoming too dependent upon it. And I realized that, but I kept thinking, oh, I could just stop it anytime I wanted to. And whenever I would try to, I would go like 3 days without having any wine at home, and I'd be like, "Oh, yay, I made 3 days, so now let's go out and get your wine." So, I didn't really that's the other thing you have all these labels, so I didn't think, "I'm not an alcoholic, I have a job, I have a successful marriage. I haven't had a DUI. I'm not any of these labels that would need to stop drinking or just, you know, abstain completely from alcohol. But I had a couple of falls while drinking, and that was very just humiliating, embarrassing. I would black out, not remember things, and it's just a terrible feeling. I felt a lot of shame, and then the falls worried me. I could really get hurt. I could really hurt myself. So it kind of all came to a head when in 2021, my sister had rented a house for us our whole family to stay at Martha's Vineyard. And so vacations, that's all bets are off. You drink during the day, you don't wait till 5 o'clock at night. So I was drinking a lot and I just felt terrible. I felt so sick the next day, couldn't remember things, was shaky. And I almost thought I was hearing voices. It was just, I knew something had to change and I signed up for a 30-day. Oh, my other thing was I never want to spend any money on like, going to rehab or any kind of program. That would be, that costs money. It doesn't matter you're spending all this money on wine every night, right? But so I had signed up for a 30-day online course and I did learn a lot. It was a good education for me. It was very science based. And I try after the 30 days was done, I tried, um, to moderate, and it just went, horribly wrong, and I guess I had, probably the worst fall ever,
Mhm.
and I just was really afraid this was gonna just take me out, and it would just be tragic and horrible for everybody, my family, and then I found you somehow, and through, social media, you kind of once you join one sober or start following one sober platform, you kind of are led to a lot of other ones, and I found Alcohol Tipping Point and you and your group, and I thought I would give it a try, and it's been hugely important to me, and it has made all the difference because your approach was just so refreshing. To practice not drinking was just such a great idea. I had never thought of that. I could practice not drinking. And you taught me to, just be kind to myself and give myself grace. And if I did drink, I would just get back at it. I wouldn't beat myself up, which, I had never considered before. I would always just beat myself up. That is what I was good at. I just would just be so hard on myself and blame myself and think of myself as a weak willed loser, to quote another gal that's on social media. And so that was really what turned it around for me is being nice to myself and not giving up, not just throwing in the towel if I had a drink. So that's pretty much all of it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about your experience growing up and how it wasn't really a problem until later. And I remember you talking about the falls before and how scary that must have been.
Yeah, I had the last fall. I mean, I laugh because it's cringe worthy, but I fell on my cement driveway, and I guess my husband said I didn't even put my hands out, obviously. And I had floaters in my eyes that I think pretty much probably from the fall. I don't really think they were there before. And that was so scary, and they're still actually there, but you get used to them. They couldn't definitively tell me if it was from the fall, but again, it's just, as we say a lot in this space, you play the tape forward and, alcohol or people that drink alcohol or, alcohol dependency, it just gets progressively worse. So I mean, I could just see where it was going and it wasn't anywhere good. So, but it's scary to make a change, especially a change that big because it's everywhere. And how would I socialize with my friends? Would my friends want to hang out with me anymore? And it's a very scary idea.
Yeah, yeah, at the time, right? And then
Yeah.
do you look back on it now like, "What was I so scared of?" on the other side of giving up alcohol?
I mean, I do, because it's just a beverage. It's just something in your glass. It's not, and most people don't notice. Most people don't care. But at first, people are like, "Why you not having," you have to put up with that kind of reaction. "What do you mean I'm having a drink? You're my you're a drinking buddy to a lot of people too, or a lot of socializing is involves drinking.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Most
more.
things do involve drinking.
Yeah, I mean, the fear is more about other people. What are they gonna think of me? And how am I
Yes.
gonna show up? What are my relationships gonna be like? I want to go back to, so when you first started, like really evaluating your relationship with alcohol and taking a break, starting with that experiment in 2021, and then joining the February Alcoholiday in 2022. Were you done with alcohol then, or were you still kind of like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to see. Like, when did you get to the point where you were like, you know what? I think I've had enough to drink. I'm done.
Well, I think I really wanted to drink without consequences, but the more I learned, and I thought about myself and how it progressed, and there was a time, but I guess it was a really long time ago, that I could just have one glass of wine. But then I thought to the more recent past, and I never could have just one glass of wine. So, I thought about it and all the reading I did, and I basically just learned that it would be so much easier for me and my brain and my chemistry to just not have any at all, because that moderating thing is very tricky for someone that has got to my point with the amount of alcohol I had drank. It's just another saying I like to say is you can't put the toothpaste back inside the tube. So, and then I was approaching, now I was in my late 50s and I was approaching 60. And I thought, why do I need to drink anymore? I don't really need to do this. I've done a lot of this. And in the last few years, it wasn't good. So that's when, the way I started decreasing was I would drink fewer days each month. And I liked that. I liked looking back at the percentage of days, that I didn't drink, because it was every day. I was a daily drinker. And so as the percentages went up, the better I felt. I had also started having some health complications, and I knew it was from alcohol. My blood pressure had gone up, and I had always had very, very low blood pressure. My cholesterol, I was told I had a fatty liver, and we knew it was from alcohol. I was honest with my physician, which most people aren't, about how much I drank. So I felt better the further away from it I got, the better I felt. And the longer I was sober, the more I wanted it. And I just felt there was no need to mess with it anymore.
Yeah, I just love hearing your story and your experience and having been with you through those months, and I mean still being with you in these groups and whatnot. But like I remember, February, March, April, May, like it didn't really stick for a while, but you kept coming back. You kept showing up for yourself. You were practicing not drinking, like you said, and you were really changing your thinking and your approach and how you talk to yourself, like, that was such a huge shift and so wonderful to
Yeah.
watch.
Huge, huge, huge. It's because of you. It's because of you and the ATP. Yeah. No,
Well, you
it never occurred
yeah,
to me to be kind to myself. Be
I
kind to
know that
everybody else.
right, right, and it's so common too. It's so, so common. That's why I just feel like it's a message that we have to reiterate again and again, like, "Yeah, this is hard, and you can do hard things," and you beating ourselves up about drinking or anything we're changing, it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't help one bit. It doesn't help at all. And the whole labeling, I said, I don't have to label myself. I don't have to call myself an alcoholic. From where my generation or whatever, family, people in my family, it was always there's the alcoholics and then there's everybody else. Well, that isn't the way it is. There's a spectrum, with alcohol use disorder. I learned that I was not on the really high end of the spectrum, but I was getting there. And you just if it doesn't serve you, then you don't have to use those labels or the language that we used for so long with, you know, people that are alcoholics. It's the blame's put on the person, not the substance. So,
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think were some of the more helpful things that helped you? You talked about the self-compassion, changing your labels, being part of the community. Like, can you elaborate on what else helped you get to where you are?
yeah, I'm definitely educating myself on alcohol and what it is. I read a lot of the Quit Lit, and if you read about alcohol and what it does to you, what it does to your body and your brain, the whole chemistry, physiology of how it affects you, it is bad. It's a drug. What's the other thing we always say? It fucks your shit up. Alcohol fucks your shit up. Can I swear?
That's what you say. Yes. Yes, it does.
So I think that that is something that you can't unlearn. It's it's a legal and socially accepted and socially pushed drug. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's the other thing we always say. Like if someone said, "Oh, I gave up crack," you wouldn't be like, "Well, why?"
Totally.
Well, why? It's so much fun when we all do crack together. So I think when I educated myself to what it really is and what it really does, that was a huge shift in my mindset. And I really don't think you can stop unless you have that change in your mind. I don't like I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I feel like it's a gift. I feel like I'm not deprived, at all. And if you had ever told me I would feel that way, I wouldn't probably have believed you. But I feel like this is a gift that I gave myself and my family, and it's, educating yourself, the podcasts, the books, community. Like I said, our group is has been just absolutely so important in my, kicking the habit.
Yeah. Had you ever done a group or anything like this before?
No, I had gone to a couple of AA meetings, and because that was really the only thing that I could think of, and it really didn't it didn't click with me. I didn't feel good when I was there, and I didn't feel good when I left. I just felt sad. I felt kind of more shame, I think. I didn't really feel the people were very nice. People always came up to me and gave me their phone numbers, but it's just a different kind of philosophy than what's out there now with kind of you and others like you.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. The online thing and joining these kind of Zoom meetings is so different, and it
Mhm.
seems like it would be impersonal, but it is so
Mhm.
personal, the connections that we've made and the friends that we've made throughout the years, really. I was talking about the retreats we've gone on and just like seeing your people who get you in real life. It's just been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. It's just been, the greatest, like, that was the other thing when you give up drinking, you think that you're giving up so much. You just think of what you're losing out on, but with me, I've gained so much, that's a huge, beautiful surprise to me is I mean, I gained more self-confidence and self-love, and I can depend on myself. My family can depend on me, but also, the friendships and, the retreats. It just has been so wonderful. It's been amazing. And
Do you
then,
think
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, are those some of the most surprising things about being alcohol free?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it's so surprising to me that I've just been able to, like, open myself up to all these new experiences and new friendships and, I've allowed that in, I've allowed myself to really just feel good about myself and not, you know, uh, the back to the anxiety, when you drink, you have the hangover, you have that enormous anxiety. And so I don't have any of that anymore. I'm pretty consistently peaceful in my in my moods and day-to-day life. So it's fabulous. Why wouldn't I want this?
Yeah, it's
Y-
so counterintuitive because you were talking about your anxiety and that was what you were drinking at. Like, "Oh, I'm anxious, this helps me feel better." And then when you realize like, "Oh, the alcohol is actually contributing to my anxiety. Once I remove it, I'm not nearly as anxious."
Yeah, and I've learned that too. It's like pouring gasoline on a flame, it's a depressant. And, the further away you get from it, you can see and feel how good it is to not be ingesting it. And like I said, it just made me want more and more and more. Like the further away from it I got, I don't want to go back there. Want to go back.
Yeah. Yeah, it made you want more and more sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think were some of the hardest things about giving up alcohol?
I think probably just learning to socialize and be around people that are drinking. At first you feel kind of like a fish out of water. You would normally just be having what they have, but I just would have an alcohol-free beer or wine, maybe at first, and then I would still feel like I'm part of the group. When eventually once you do it a few times, it gets less weird, and now I just will have a Diet Coke or just, club soda, cranberry juice or whatever. And also, I think trying to find other events to do with people that aren't alcohol centered. Like if you're away, say I'm away with my family and they, let's go to the bar, I'll try to think of something different to do. Let's go for a hike. Let's go for a walk. Let's, you know, play a game. You try to I try to come up with non-alcohol things to do.
Totally, totally. And what has your family and friends what has their response been to this new Carol?
A lot of people have just, I have this very good couple that Mark and I have known for years, and they both were kind of, "Oh, well, why they weren't questioning me, but I think they were kind of, like, thinking, "Well, this is gonna be different, and this isn't what we're used to." And then, we were away for a weekend this past summer, and both of them said to me separately how happy I seem. The man said, "I Carol, your eyes are so bright." He said, "I've known you for a long time, and you're you look great." And it just meant so much to me that they both noticed this positive change in me, and they were both really happy for me. And yeah, overall, my husband's really happy and proud of me. And I think people have just noticed a lot from my face and appearance. I think it was pretty bloated and not, probably just kind of dull or, sad looking. I don't know. But, I think people are like my close friends are proud of me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the other things that are different about your life now that you've been alcohol free this long? And you mentioned your health before, how you were starting to see high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver. What are some of the changes that you've made that you can see mentally and physically?
Yeah, my health is great now. It's fine. I think I lost like 15 pounds since I stopped drinking, which is it wasn't a problem. I wasn't overweight, but it doesn't hurt to lose, excess weight. So that's good. And all my numbers are good now. My blood pressure is back to being very low. I sleep great. I s- like I sleep like a rock, and it's wonderful. And yeah, I just am very present. I can be there for anybody anytime. Like if, it doesn't have to be before 5 o'clock. So I can go out at night without worrying, that I have to drive. And just the other thing is being at events, I would always think I was drunk at the end of the night and I couldn't really remember things. So everybody was probably drunk. We were all drunk. People have said to me, "Oh, we were all drunk." Well, not everybody's drunk. Like I now that I am aware one from the beginning to the end of the event, I look around and there's hardly anybody drunk. So it was me, maybe one other person. But so that's kind of enlightening. Not everybody drank to the extent that I drank. And, it's just all been positive, really. I can't think of one bad thing about giving up drinking.
That's so amazing. I mean, that's alcohol freedom, right? When you have gotten to the point where you're like, I don't even want it. Like this has all been such a positive change. I don't need it. I don't want to go back there. But it's really hard to get there.
It is, and, I don't have any of that mental chatter about, "Will I have a drink? Won't I have a drink? How many drinks have I had? I only had 1 drink last night. I don't have any of that anymore." That is so liberating. It's I don't have to even consider any of that. Or I drive by the stores I used to be like, "They're still open. I can still get wine there before I go home," or it was always where I was gonna get the wine that night, and then I wouldn't wanna have a ton of it in the house. I would just get the one, bottle, eh, or I tried to get a smaller the little juice box ones. I don't need a whole bottle, I'll just have the little but then I would say to Mark, "Can you go back? Can you go out, get me some more?"
Oh my god, me too, me too. I couldn't keep alcohol around in the house, and it would always just be like, "I'm just gonna get one, that's all I want," and then I always
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, always wanting more. Yeah.
And going back to, like, that moderation and the exhaustion of thinking about drinking and all of that, it's just like, I'd rather have none than one, if one is how we, quote, unquote, "moderate." But
Yeah,
it took a while to get there.
and I have no doubt that it's not like this for many people. I know many people that can have one, and many people that don't think about it all the time. Or,
Mhm.
if they have one, they want more and more and more, you know? I know a lot of people that's not the way they are, but that's fine. This is the way I am. That's another thing. I think it takes a lot to recognize that about yourself, that you process it differently or you're having a harder time than maybe your friends or I think that that's a huge step too, is just realizing that this is the way it is for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that you stop comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to the quote unquote alcoholics, like you said, or the
yeah,
people that are
or
just
the
having one and they're not thinking about it all the time.
yeah, yeah. So that was a big step too, just really recognizing the fact that, this is the way it is for me and that's okay. So, what can I do about it?
Yeah.
Um,
This is your
yes.
thing. This is your shit pickle.
This is this is my shit. Pickle.
Well, what would you say to, those people who are feeling stuck? They're having a hard time getting momentum. They know something's off with their drinking and they don't know what to do, where to begin. Like, what's some of your Carol Baston wisdom?
I would just say to, start by educating yourself, and whether that's podcasts or books or just following people on social media and just seeing what works for other people. There's not one size fits all. And if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Just do whatever feels right for you, you know, and just don't throw in the towel if you have a drink. Like, just don't go back to day one. That's the other thing. When we did the counting, I have this many days. When we did that, we do the counting days, and then you say, "Oh, I had a drink. It's back to day one." Well, I didn't do that. Like, I was, I had my own way of doing it. I slipped a couple of times, not severely, not what I would consider, blackout or anything. But I felt like I'm not going back to day one. This doesn't undo everything that I've learned, everything that I've done. And so I kind of gave myself a three strikes and you're out kind of thing. Like, if I had done one more drinking, then I would have gone back to day one. I think I had three instances where I drank and I had felt bad about it afterwards. But I didn't go back to day one. I said, if I do it one more time, then I'll go back to. So you can make your own rules, and that worked for me. So
Yeah, I think that's part of being kind to yourself as you're changing your drinking too. Like, And that is such a good point. You don't have to go back to day one. You still have those days. You still learned from them. I kind of like that analogy. Like you're building a wall between you and alcohol. And each day you don't drink, you're putting down a brick. And if you do
Yeah,
drink on a day, you're not removing any bricks. You're still building that wall. You're still learning. And it reminds me of I love the saying like don't let a slip become a slide. So
yeah,
it's like, yeah, you're gonna have a slip. You're gonna have those as you're undoing this habit. Those are normal. We learn from them. And to your point, like when we don't want it to become a slide and then you're back into every day. It's like, okay, well, let's catch ourselves before we get back into that routine. So yeah, the three strikes and you're back. I mean, there's so many different ways you can measure success, what that looks like. I think you also talked about percentages.
yeah. I would look back on the month and I would say, "Oh, I drank this many." At first it was a lot, but it wasn't every day. So that's what I kept saying to myself. Like I drank, you know, however many times in March. And I would say, "Well, that's not great." But then I would look at the percentage and I would say, "Well, that's not bad. 55% I didn't drink or 60% I didn't drink." Yeah. And then as, it went up, I felt better about it and it started getting easier. And again, I would say, "Well, I'm not drinking every day." Like it was just going from
Well,
drinking every
yeah.
day to 50% or isn't that bad? So I don't think that, I would have had that outlook before joining the group. And yeah, and it is a habit. It's unwinding a habit. Like you said, you come, for me and for most people, it was 5 o'clock making dinner. And at first it's hard, at first it's hard. Yeah, that's your go-to thing. That's your friend. Wine was my friend, or I thought it was. And you substitute something else for that. And you get through it. And the more you do it, the more you can do it. So now 5 o'clock comes and goes. I don't have any of those twitches, those feelings that I need a drink. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a process of getting there. I think that's so important. And I think you're right, like just drinking less should be applauded. We
yeah,
tend to shame people into sobriety and it's like, you know what? Any amount that you're drinking less or reducing, even if your end goal is 0, like let's applaud that. That's
yeah.
great. That is how you get to this alcohol freedom.
Right. And then as some people state, um, you know, you don't necessarily have to be a problem drinker to not drink alcohol. It could just be something that you choose for whatever reason you want. Health, anything. You just it doesn't mean that, there's this big um black cloud hanging over you because you don't drink alcohol, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to have a problem with drinking to give up drinking. You can just give up drinking because it's shit for your health. That shit fucks
Yeah.
you up, is that what
Yeah, and some
Yeah.
people just have never drank. Some people have just never really had had the desire to drink, or some people don't drink just because they don't drink.
Yes, yeah,
So,
so again, like, getting away from the labels, getting away from that, just doing what's best for you.
yeah, because it keeps people stuck. I think that's what kept me stuck. I just wasn't am I bad enough that I have to stop drinking altogether? So it's just a beverage in a glass.
Yeah, that Am I Bad Enough? One of the books we read, I can't remember if it was I can't remember who wrote it. Maybe someone else will remember. It might have been Sober Curious or something like that, but they were talking about if your kitchen's on fire, you're not gonna wait for the whole house to catch on fire before you put it out, right? And so
Yeah,
sometimes your drinking can get to the point where your kitchen's on fire and it's time to put it out. We don't need to wait until the proverbial rock bottom. Like, it can just be that
exactly.
enough.
I mean, I had this, thought in my head, like, really, Carol, how many times do you have to fall down on your head to get this message that this is not working for you?
Yeah, literally.
How many black eyes, bruised faces do you need? It really, it's ridiculous. If if that's happening, then you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't you can't, and that's the other thing. I couldn't control it. I could not control it. So I had to give up, like they do say in alcoholics, you kind of give up that, not your power, but I realized that I couldn't control it. So I was not going to let it control me, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, it's the acceptance. It's
It's the
the, like,
acceptance.
this is your thing. This will
Hmm.
always be your thing unless you do something about it, and so taking responsibility for it is empowering.
Right. And there's really no shame in that. And I think shame has been attached to people that overdrink, forever. So, I like to see it as the shame part goes away. And this is something that you're choosing to do. That's a great thing, and should be celebrated. Like you said.
Such a great thing. We always talk about, like, "Yeah, we're alcohol-free badasses," like,
Hmm.
feel proud about it. Like, this is such a gift. You were talking about it
Yeah,
being such a gift for you.
it is. And I do feel like that now. I feel like proud of it. I don't drink and I don't preach to anyone else. It took me a long time to figure it out for myself. And everyone has their own journey, their own relationship with alcohol. And I would be happy to, that's why I'm doing this, because I do hope it helps someone that maybe is in a similar situation. And but I wouldn't be preachy to people that still like to drink, because I used to love to drink. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to come to this.
mhm,
Definitely, definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Is there anything else you wanna add that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to get out there?
yeah. I mean, I just would say that, if fear or any kind of self, doubt or shame is stopping you, it's worth exploring, looking into it. And, I like I said, I've never regretted not drinking. I've never woken up without a hangover and been sad. It's like waking up without hangovers never gets old. Just never gets old. Feeling great the next day after an event or something. It's amazing. So, yeah, it's been a very, very positive change, and it's never too late. You can start wherever you are, whatever age. There's no limit on it, time limit.
Yeah, yeah, that's well said, and I am so proud of you, so glad that this shit pickle brought us together and
Me
that I've gotten
too.
to know you. I know, it's so interesting, it just makes life better, and, thank you for sharing your story, sharing it on the podcast. Shout out to
Thank
people who
you.
wanted join the Alcoholiday.
Yes. It's the best place to be.
Well, thank you, Carol. I adore you.
Thank you, Deb. I adore you and all you do for everyone. You're amazing. It's not everybody can do what you do. You have a gift.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. Please share and review the show so you can help other people too. I want you to know I'm always here for you, so please reach out and talk to me on Instagram at Alcohol Tipping Point and check out my website, alcoholtippingpoint.com, for free resources and help. No matter where you are on your drinking journey, I want to encourage you to just keep practicing, keep going. I promise you are not alone and you are worth it. Every day you practice not drinking is a day you can learn from. I hope you can use these tips we talked about for the rest of your week, and until then, talk to you next time.